I'm really happy that we've got a great turnout today. There was some talk last night as we were cleaning up and leaving that the turnout today might be more parsimonious of people, but you all are here. I appreciate that. And we have, like, today is the day to be here too, because we've got a lot of great people from around the Department of the Navy that are here. And normally you wouldn't have access to such people because they're hard to get a hold of. They're in demand, but they're here today. So one of them, I don't know when Bob Smith is getting here, but Bob Smith is one of my great friend. He and I maybe argue back and forth a little too much, but he is the Department of the Navy's SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research Program Manager. So he's here today. He was here last night. He's here today. So I was talking a lot about SBIRs yesterday, the phase 2, the phase 1, phase 2. So we're going to make sure I'm passing the right information, and he's going to fact check me. So I'm really excited for that because I don't mind being wrong. I'm probably the one I've learned over the years. It's okay to be wrong as long as we're getting the right information out. So that's the kind of caliber folk that we have here today. And I shouldn't say folk, but that's the kind of caliber defense employee that we have here today for you. So let's cover a couple quick things here. Again, I just want to talk about safety before we bring on our day 2 keynote speaker, who's live today, not virtual. And again, Mr. Marcias wanted to be here. A great speaker. He really hit on some key points that I always hit on as a Warfare Center person. So really bad that he wasn't here, but we have day 2 keynote speaker, and we're privileged to have that we'll introduce in just a few minutes here. Again, to my, this is my right hand. To my right is the South, and to my left is the North. So if there is a fire and you can't escape from the North or the South entrances here, the big bay doors, you go opposite of the fire, or whatever unlikely event of an emergency, as you hear on the planes all the time, unlikely event of emergency, we want to exit as far away from the building as possible. However, if you do go out these south doors, remember, we're going to talk about the south doors now. That's the doors where the chow was yesterday. The chow will be in the same place. I believe it's Marshall's again with something similar to the menu that you received yesterday. And Gubbies, you have to pay. There's a QR code. I'm the pay person. I'll make sure you do the QR code. You saw me up here holding up to a couple Gubbies, making them pay. So, but if you haven't paid and you've gotten free entrance to this, the FATHOMWERX team would like you to pay. I have the QR codes will be around today. But let's go back to this door here. If there's an emergency, go out the south door. You are entering an active port. If you got the Port Hueneme tour yesterday, you have seen all the Chiquita bananas being delivered in the Subarus. Lots of stuff go on here. There's heavy equipment out there. You could get hit. So when you go out during the unlikely events of emergency, keep to the left and hug along the fence line. I think there's some trucks and stuff there, but hug along the fence line close to that, out of the way of any operational equipment that might be on the pier today. Okay, let's also talk about that. Now, that's in the unlikely event of an emergency. If you just want to go out there and see what's going on, because right now I can see one of these sexy drones down there sitting on this tabletop that Jeff, I forgot the name of the company, but Jeff wanted me to bring people down there for a demo. Maybe we can get him to do another demo today. It had a radiation probe on it. When you look at it, you can go out there and look at it, but don't go beyond those stanchions. If you go beyond those stanchions in a non-emergency situation, I'm sure port security will roll you up. They'll ask you what you're doing. They probably may not approach you or may approach you, and then somebody will yell at Brian, the host of this event, and then we get yelled. It's the whole thing, right? It all rolls downhill. So please don't go out onto the active port. On the other side where you've parked, I get VIP parking. I park back here, so I have no idea what the parking looks like over there. But where you parked, you're allowed to go on that side. Let's talk about the restrooms. The restrooms are still out these bay doors. And they're VIP restrooms. They're unisex, sexy restrooms, right? Like, they're sort of not sexy now, Alan? Come on. I thought yesterday, well, they're better than the porta potties that we received at 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines while in the field out at Camp Pendleton and other places around the United States. And Somalia, of course. And I believe the president of Somalia is meeting with Secretary Austin today. So There's a little fact. Maybe Google that. So the bathrooms are through that wall. If you could go through this curtain wall out to the other side, there's unisex bathrooms there. If you go out around by this RepTech tent, eMark is what it's called. Let's give them a little plug. The eMark tent. You see that field-looking tent. Then you make a left, and you'll go past. This is on the other side of the curtain. You go past this white clean room. Then all of a sudden, as you follow this piped rope that's blocking off some of the equipment there, you'll come into a gray-colored wall. The men's room is first, and then the ladies' room. So there you go. That's the indoor plumbing or showers. I think there's showers in there if you need to take a shower for whatever reason. All right, so I think we've covered safety and where everything else is, same as yesterday. So now what I'd like to do, am I missing anything? I don't think I'm missing anything. Alan, am I missing anything? How are we doing today? We're doing great? All right. So I am super excited. I'm super excited to be the person that introduces Mike Lander. Mr. Lander is the Deputy TD for Port Hueneme. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. You may use that one, and I will keep quiet as you introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I know that was for him. Hey, can you hear me okay? It's always the technical stuff. How about now? Let me just use the one you have. Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hey, 30 years of doing technical stuff, and it's always the little things. Hey, welcome back to day 2 of the Coastal Trident, Antex, and FATHOMWERX Summit, right? Really excited to see you all back here today and see so many people here. Yesterday, I was remarking to Captain Hoffman, our commanding officer. I've been to FATHOMWERX a lot over the last couple years, and I've never been behind the curtain, right? I never knew what was on this side of the fence. And right, just like in the Wizard of Oz, right, this is where the magic really happens. Here at FATHOMWERX, we talk a lot about how do we measure the value that we're seeing. At Port Hueneme, we strive to test, deploy, and sustain capability to the warfighter. I see a lot of opportunity for capability to be examined and deployed and tested here. But I think the real value we're seeing over these last 2 days is not so much the capability, but the relationships, right? How do we measure the value of the relationships that we're creating at events like these? Because we all anticipate, right, it's going to get more challenging in the next couple of years. And having these relationships in place now will help us a lot with the sense of urgency and speed to fleet that we're going to need going into the future. Speaking of all those relationships with small business, industry, academia, our local community here at Port Hueneme, I'm privileged to introduce our keynote speaker for day 2, Mr. Jimmy Smith, who is the director of the Department of the Navy's Office of Small Business Programs. The significance of small businesses can't be understated, and the impact of small businesses on the nation's economy is all too clear. The Small Business Administration has stated that small business has made up 2 out of every 3 jobs added in the last 25 years, as well as 66% of employment growth. Here in California, small business accounts for 99.8% of the economy, making small business truly the engine of America's economy. I've had the privilege to work with Mr. Smith in the past, and I can attest to his dedication, rigor, and commitment to the programs and people that he works with. We had the opportunity to work together about 10 years ago. Strangely, I look like my grandfather now, and he still looks the same. So I'm not sure what, I thought moving to California was going to make me taller and thinner. Still waiting for that. Prior to his current position as the director of small business office, he has worked as a senior executive at Program Executive Office, Integrated Warfare Systems, at Strategic Systems Programs, and as the DASN for Expeditionary Programs and Logistics Management on the ASNRDA staff. He has been in his current position since 2019, overseeing all small business policies, bolstering federal government and small business partnerships, and fostering ways for the government can strategically use small businesses to benefit the Navy fleet and the warfighter. His exemplary comprehensive background with the Navy involves strategic acquisition logistics, policy execution, contract delivery, warfare systems development and sustainment, and transitioning new capabilities and technologies. Mr. Smith, with all further ado, thank you again for taking your time to talk with us today, and welcome to Port Hueneme.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm back in California again for the second time in 2 weeks. Show of hands, folks that were attending Gold Coast last week. Outstanding. So I'm going to talk a little bit more than I did at Navy Gold because I was planning to host at that event. But I'm happy to be here back to Port Hueneme. I've been here at least 4 times in my past Navy career to this particular site, working on capability to get out to the fleet. One of the things that I really wanted to emphasize to everyone here is that you absolutely matter to the future fight for this country. You absolutely matter. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the disruption that you provide to that status quo kind of environment. As the small business director for the Department of the Navy, I am your advocate. I am the one that gets you to the door, to the program managers, to the contracting officers that have money and contracts to get you underway to provide that capability. You need capability that meets a mission requirement. We don't have any money laying around just to be given to industry partners without having any results come from it. Okay, so you have to deliver. Be on time, be on cost, be on schedule, and provide that capability that we ask for. That's the goal, that's the requirement. If you're into the kind of construct, you can absolutely stay, okay? All right, talking a little bit about the Secretary of the Navy, my boss. He was a small business owner for 17 years prior to becoming the Secretary of the Navy. Prior to that, operationally, he was a surface warfighter, drove surface ships around for the Navy, and his passion for small business can't be minimized. I will tell you, his first week on the job, he has a host of direct reports, and I was probably on the schedule to see him on week 3 of him being on board working for the Navy. He called me into his office the very first week he was on board. And I walked in with my PowerPoint presentation because I wanted to show him all the things I was proud of because of small businesses in the Navy. And I walked in and he said, "So Jimmy, tell me, how well are we doing in the area of small business?" "Sir, we're doing great. We're meeting all of our metrics." And then he said, "Well, I'm an interrupter. We're not doing that well." So I put my brief away and I proceeded to listen. And as a small business industry partner, he had a few challenges breaking into doing business with the Navy. And now as the Secretary of the Navy, he wanted to go back and see those commands that he had trouble breaking into. And I said, "Sir, wait, I can't let you bring your old job into your new job and you go hurt my friends that are managing these large organizations." He said, "But I want to go see them and I want to go tell them, why did you make it so hard for me to do business with you?" In one particular case, folks, and this was one of our major buying commands, the program manager actually asked the then small business owner, Carlos Del Toro, "Well, if you want to do business with us, how many Marines do you have in your organization?" He said, I don't have any Marines that work for me." He said, "Well, you're not getting any work out of the Marine Corps Systems Command." And that hit him to his heart because he has capability, but because of who's on his staff, this particular person said that they weren't going to allow him to get work out of their organization. So you can imagine why he wanted to go see folks down at Quantico and lay some waste to that particular area and kill some people, right? I wouldn't let him do it, but the message was clear. Culturally, we need to change how we do business, provide that opportunity for small businesses, reduce barriers for you to do business with us, and let's get on with providing capability for people who need it, folks that are going into harm's way, making sure that they come back to their families. That's what we're here for, and that's what the responsibility we're trying to emulate. Now, prior to taking this position for 28 years, I did nothing but provide capability to the warfighter or those supporting the warfighter. Engineer, program manager, it's my job to give people what they need. I was moved over into position, and I struggled because I'm not a business person. I'm an engineer. I'm a program manager. But I really didn't want this position because of the history it had prior to. And typically contracting officers were the folks that were given this position. And it was just like, let's just make the donuts. And I said, I can't do that. I have to use what I do as a weapon to those things that we're trying to defeat. So when it comes to some of our larger industry partners, small businesses, you are my weapons against them. The price, the innovation, the disruption that you bring applies pressure to them to do the right thing or partner with you to get that innovation we need. Highly encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You've got an advocacy formed through my offices and every single echelon across the Navy. We want to do nothing but help small businesses get that advantage they need in order to do business with us. If you experience a problem doing business with us, if I don't know about it, somebody who works for me needs to know about it. But please bring things to my attention if you feel that things are not going as they properly should. And I'll give you an example. When we released a draft RFP out, some of our industry partners read this particular statement of work. And one of the caveats in the statement of work was that the offerers needed to be within 5 miles of the location that was offering the contract. And I didn't understand that. When that particular organization, over 95% of its employees are teleworking. So why does the contractor need to be within 5 miles of the location of that office that's offering the contract? So the industry partner who alerted me to this concern, I said, let me do you a favor. I'll fix this. I called up the contracting officer and I said, can you explain to me, why do you have a requirement in your statement of work that said only offerers can be within 5 miles of your location? The contracting officer said, how did that get in there? I don't know. It's your document. It's your contract proposal. You wrote it, right? Folks don't necessarily read in many occasions. They dust off what they put out before, recycle it, put it back out again. If there are challenges that you have with something we wrote that doesn't make sense, bring it to my attention. And another RFP was released right after I highlighted the concern. And you want to swap mics out? No problem. No problem. Okay. So let my office work for you. Okay. Any issues you have, let's say that you didn't win a contract and the debrief that they gave you was very unsatisfactory. You need to contact my office because that transparency is supposed to be there. One of the things that I did after taking this position, about 3 weeks of being on the job, I had 8 of you industry partners come visit me in my office. And you were very upset at the fact that some of these larger prime contractors weren't honoring their work share agreements that they have with you. They promised you before the contract was awarded, you were going to get a certain percentage. When we awarded the contract, that number that you actually received was different. Contact me. I call in the prime contractors and I need to understand, what don't you understand about honoring agreements that you have with your subcontractors? I went across the Washington Navy Yard that particular day after hearing this 6 times in my first 3 weeks of being on the job. And I got the Navy to do an audit on itself. Let's go check our own homework for how well we're honoring subcontracting agreements and enforcing them. I did that. I sicked the Navy on myself in the contracting community, and we have fixed those problems. So I can't admire problems. If you have issues, you need them fixed, you need to bring them to my attention. I can't read minds, and I love to fix and solve problems. It's kind of the equivalent of pulling the pin out the hand grenade, throwing it in the room, closing the door, and let's just see what happens. I get to do that on a regular basis on your behalf. Let me throw more hand grenades. I enjoy doing it. It's pretty fun. Let's talk about access to the contracting officers and access to the program managers. How many of you have experienced difficulty getting to the people who have the money and have the contracts? I see hands going up. Got it. Did you take the small business professionals with you when you went to those various organizations? I got a no. I got a no. All right. The Office of Small Business Programs, again, is here to be your advocate. If you come through our door first, we can get you into the presence of those program managers and contracting officers. It's kind of like we're vouching for you. We see your capability statement. We do a little research on what you can do and what you've done. And then we get you to the door of that program manager or contracting officer. If you try to do it without the Office of Small Business Programs in tow, good luck. But a lot easier path if you take folks that work for me with you to go down that path. It'll just make life a whole lot easier. So it's all about who you know. We all know that. It's all about who you know. Take that small business professional in with you. And they're located at every single organization, at every single echelon. You have folks that are waiting to help you be successful. Okay? All right. How does my organization work with the contracting community? That was one of the questions that was laid out to me. And we're absolutely tied at the hip. The head of contracts, my organization, we are considered as one, even though we don't work for the same boss. Things that they need to be successful help to make small businesses successful. When you see a statement of work or an RFP or a request for sources sought or RFI come out on the street, if you think that work could be broken apart for small businesses to do it instead of rolling it up under some large mammoth contract for only large industry partners to execute, you need to bring those things to our attention. We're disaggregating contracts. Small businesses get the opportunity first. That's the way it should be. Behavior over the past many years has been roll it all up and just let the large industry partners deal with it and they'll sub to those guys. Now, we want a prime contract with you. At the moment, FY22, prime contracts to small business from across the Navy, we're totaling $18.4 billion. Prime contracts. I get no credit for you getting a contract from a larger prime. I am contracting directly with you to the tune of $18.4 billion so far, and we got a couple more weeks to go in this fiscal year. That's on average about par. That's a little bit better than what we've done. Last year was $17.4 billion. We're already at $18.4 billion because of our stronger and increased emphasis on doing more with small businesses in the prime contractor capacity. If you're not set up to be a prime contractor, you're not quite ready at that point yet, you need to engage my office. We can help you get across the finish line for being in a position to earn prime contractor awards. Again, folks, my organization is only getting paid to help you. If you're not utilizing us, guess what? I may be helping your competition. So let me help you get into a position to where you can be quite competitive. Working in the space that we're talking about here regarding FATHOMWERX and the great construct under the Naval X Enterprise, I too have done something very similar. I actually hired on board an entrepreneur. I have one government person working for me, and he's on a rotational assignment. His primary goal is let's go find those small businesses that are doing creative and innovative things, and let's go see if there's some military utility to it that we can take advantage of. So just like what's occurring here, where you got synergy across industry, academia, and government, we're also complementing, I didn't even know you were out there. I didn't even know you were doing that. But guess what? Let's go get closer and figure out how to do business with one another. Through the Small Business Innovative Research Project, STTR, Bob Smith is here, my cousin. He'll talk to you guys a little bit later about that. So We have many tools in our toolbox, other transactional authorities. We have a number of ways we can get to you to do business with you. I have a caution. Small businesses, all money is not green, okay? If you're taking foreign investment capital from countries that we may not necessarily be so friendly with, you're ruling yourself out of being able to do business with us in the future. Okay? Be mindful of who's investing in your company. And as we all know, there may be a shell company, 1 or 2 layers. You need to dig down deep to find where your investors are truly grounded so that you don't get ruled out of future procurements. So not all money is green, okay? Technology needs disruptors. I've talked about that a little bit. We need you to push the envelope. Status quo won't get us to where we need to be to fight near peer adversaries. Pushing the envelope on physics, pushing the envelope on engineering, giving our folks capability that they need to do their jobs and come back to their families. That's what you're all here for. Do it well, and let's protect your intellectual property. Again, if you're working with the government, working with the Navy, and you feel that what you're doing is being compromised to others where you're going to lose that competitive edge you have, you need to call my office. I will go put an end to any challenges you have that are preventing you from being successful, productive, and profitable. I'm probably the only person here that will tell you, I want you to be profitable, okay? I absolutely want you to be profitable because I want you to do more business with us. I want you to help other industry partners out and give them a hand so that they can do more business with us. We've seen a 40 to 60% decline in industry partners doing business with us over the last 5 years. In certain portfolio areas, I've had to go back to the OEM to reconstitute a production line that they stopped doing 13 years ago because there are no more small businesses doing that work for us at the moment. No one said stop providing the capability to the warfighter. My result is I have to go back to someone and pay a premium to do the work and provide the products and services that we once used to be able to get from small businesses. To many of you, that should look like an opportunity, a pretty ripe opportunity to do business with us. But we're hemorrhaging in the area of a declining industrial base. Okay, question. Do any of you know about the Mentor Protege program by chance? Show of hands. Mentor Protege? Anybody benefit from the Mentor Protege program or participated in one? Okay. A larger industry partner can get up to $2 million from the government, from the Navy, from the Department of Defense to help small businesses get those things they need to be viable. Up to $2 million for 2 years. I will pay them to help you get those things you need to be viable. You need to already be in a prime subcontractor relationship, but if you can set up a teaming agreement between yourselves and the government about why this is beneficial to all of us, we can go down that path. So I want you to be stronger. I want to strengthen the industrial base, and we're going to pay up to $2 million for 2 years to do that. It benefits you by the help and support you get. I reimburse that larger industry partner for all of the time and effort they put into helping you. So we're serious. We're putting money where our mouth is when it comes to taking care of our industry partners. All right. Anybody concerned about your data rights? Data rights, hanging on to your capability and your trade secrets. So Bob, are you going to talk to some detail about data rights? All right, so we'll save that. But I will tell you, if you think anyone on the government side is stepping on your data rights and going off and taking your secrets and marketing them to someone else to do it because they don't want to deal with you or your company, you need to engage my office. I got lawyers at my disposal. I know how to correct bad behavior. And we've had to let a few people go because of bad behavior in this particular arena. So that's the gist of it. I will stop talking now because I think you guys get the point. I'm here to help you. Everything that I do supports small businesses being that viable entity we need. I'll take questions from the audience if you have any. Any questions? I did a great job. Goodbye.
You did awesome, Mr. Smith. Oh, we've got one question.
Thank you very much. I'm Daniel Emerson. I run a small business in California.
Nice to meet you, Dan.
I'm interested to meet the person on your staff that handles innovative ideas that may not be out under contract.
Understood. His name is Daniel Sheraton, and I can drop off his contact information. But he is my entrepreneur. He is talking to VCs, this guy's talking to people that I'm scared of because we're going into territories that we've not delved in before. But it's all about, let's go cultivate an opportunity. Let's go use some of these tools to contract out business with one another, but bring me some novel ideas, bring me some game changing opportunities so we can turn them into maybe opportunities like what's authored here at FATHOMWERX and furthering your idea to get it across the finish line. But I'll set you up with Dan Sheridan. Absolutely.
Another question, sir.
Yeah, I'm Eric Hazeltine. My wife, Chris, we're a small business. We don't want the government's money.
Wait, stop, get out.
What we want, because we have funding, but what we want is to work with the Navy to try and test our technology so
Okay.
we can learn and perfect it. So we've got a quote finished product, but we haven't got the opportunity to test it in the fleet. And that's really all we want, is to see how real operators use it and to learn from it.
Okay.
How do we do that?
So we actually have at-sea fleet experimentation opportunities that occur multiple times a year. You ever heard of a REMPAC by chance? Okay, so taking your capability, letting the sailors run around with it, play with it, try to break it, see if it actually does what you said it was going to do. We have those opportunities primarily run through the Office of Naval Research in that regard to get capability on platforms, and we got to make sure it's safe. And, if you need power, hotel services, all of that stuff, we got to check all that out in advance. If a temp alt or ship alt needs to be made to accommodate the equipment, we got to go run the gauntlet with that. But we have nothing but opportunities for you to bring capability forward if there's military utility to helping us take on the next fight. So look forward to it. Between Bob and myself, we can absolutely address that. Getting a hold of the Office of Naval Research Science Advisors is critical because they're the people working with the fleet to make sure that those at-sea experiments and demonstrations come off as stellar as they should be. But we have opportunities. I'm not going to let you break any ships though, but we're going to wring it out to make sure that it's got the capability we need to fight it. I would love to talk to you further about what is it, because if it's not something we need, then I just don't need it. But would love to talk to you further about what we can do to bridge an opportunity there. Thank you. Yeah, but plenty of opportunities to take stuff to sea or lab experiments or whatever.
Mr. Smith, we're going to do maybe one more question after this gentleman's question, and then I think you're going to stay with us for a little bit.
I'm sitting on the panel.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so this is
I'm not going
fantastic.
anywhere.
Thank you. All right, so sir.
I'm Michael Jones. I'm the managing partner of Subsea Sail. We make that small vessel over there.
Sail.
Love to talk with you. The mentor program, it used to be very popular 5-7 years ago, it seemed like. And then we've talked to some bigger defense contractors, and I've seen little interest in that. So it's lovely to hear you say that there's funding. How do we work with your office to find the right people? Or
So
I don't quite understand how we can engage with you to do that.
So one thing that my office will not do is get you in a marriage situation with another prime. Because if it ends in divorce, then it's all my fault. I'm not getting in between industry partners. So if you can bring a larger industry partner to the table with a teaming agreement, we will entertain it, make sure that the government has a benefit of that, and then I'll go up to OSD and get money to go off and fund that agreement. But we don't get in between industry partners getting married to one another. We stay out of that situation, because then they're like, well, why'd you pick that organization over that organization? Then I get taken to court. I'm not going there. But if you can bring a partner, we've got money. And I have a program manager that works for me. Her name is Mercedes Thurston. She's the program manager for the Mentor Protege program. And we can absolutely show you how to fill out the right teaming agreement, the template to use to get it through the system for approval. No challenges whatsoever. If you Google Department of Navy, Office of Small Business Programs, it'll take you to my website. Host of information there, just a repository of detail there, especially on the Mentor Protege program.
And then, sir, one last question for this forum from this young lady right here.
Thank you. I also a small business owner. My question, you mentioned the industrial base, right?
Yes.
You know, the concern about, and I think there's a lot of interest in small business being able to be an engine of bringing back and expanding the industrial base. I'm wondering if there is, what are the contracting mechanisms or procurement or investment mechanisms for the supply base and the supply chain services that support these technology companies that are trying to provide that growth?
Absolutely. The Naval Supply Command, quite conveniently for supply, the Naval Supply Command is that command that we use. Is this thing still on? Yeah. The Naval Supply Command is the activity we use to use consumables, repair parts, overhaul, repair, anything we need, like you would get from a Walmart, a Costco. That's our Naval Supply Command. That organization is stellar from an around the world standpoint of providing that capability. And that's who you need to work with. So everything from spare parts, paints, oils, adhesives, you name it, that's who's buying it. That's the activity you need to engage out of my 10 major buying commands to further what you're trying to offer. And just to tell you a little bit briefly, since I kind of cracked the door open, the Navy has 10 major buying commands: facilities, NAVFAC; supply, NAVSUP. If you want to get into shipbuilding, that's the Naval Sea Systems Command. Those 10 major buying commands spend the money for the Navy. So you have to know which customer to target for the opportunities in all of their contracts. Another bit of transparency that we provide to everyone: every single contract that I plan on putting out across the Navy over the next 5 to 6 years is already in our long range forecast. You can go back to that same website, go to Doing Business with the Don. Under that tab, pull up the long range acquisition forecast. You can see what every single one of these 10 major buying commands plans on buying over the next 5 to 6 years. Now, be careful. The first time we put this together, I had 87 Excel spreadsheet pages at the 5 font level of solicitations that we're planning on awarding between now and 5 years from now. You can search by NICS code, you can search by keyword, and you can find those things that you're interested in doing business with us on, and you can find those contracting opportunities and how we plan on awarding, the acquisition strategy, a description of the work. You can find all of that online today. You don't have to go to sam.gov and get a 30-day head start. I can give you 4 or 5 year head start on what we're planning on putting out by way of a contract. Okay, good deal. All right, so I'll get down off the stage or stay on the panel. What you want me to do?
Well, they're here for you, Mr. Smith. So, Mr. Jimmy Smith, our Department of Navy. Thanks for coming. You were just in California last year, and now, or last week, and now you're out in California again. So Mr. Smith, thank you for coming in. I know you probably get compliments all day, and he's not my supervisor. So, I hear a lot of speeches, I hear a lot of talk, but Mr. Smith, you knew exactly where on your website what buttons to click. That sends a signal. That should send a clear signal to everyone that he is familiar with his website, he's behind his product, and he wants to help. So that's That's leadership right there. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you very much. Okay, now we roll into my panel. So I've got this great panel that I've set up. I don't know if the questions are provocative enough, but I'm going to try to build off of what Mr. Smith has talked about today. So we've got and Mr. Smith, you're not on the panel, so I hope there wasn't confliction there. Now again, I want to let you know too. Mr. Smith's the sheriff. He has deputies. We've got Dan here, Dan Mahan from Port Hueneme. He's a deputy. And then Danny, I think there's Danny. Danny, you're out at Exwick. So Exwick. So they're represented here today, and they're going to be on the panel here in just a moment. So those are the deputies. If you don't know the deputies, reach out to the deputies. If you don't know the deputies, I'm going to give you I think steve.frail@Navy still works. If not, it's steven.s with a V, .frail.civ@us.navy.mil. Look, again, I told you yesterday, so this is not my day job. I run 2 IPTs for O&R and then some other stuff for S&T and RDT and R&D. It takes me about three weeks to get back with emails that I'm not going to say don't matter, but I have to prioritize emails. So if it takes me 3 weeks to get back with you, I will get back with you. And if not, just email me again and put it at the top of my queue. I will get back with you. So like the folks over here ask about, well, how can we test our equipment? Well, that's like how ironic we are at an ANTX. So if you don't know Brendan Applegate here at Port Hueneme, get with Brendan to ask about the next Coastal Trident ANTX. This week, we're closing up the Cyber ANTX at Nywick Atlantic. That ANTX is a little bit different because it comes with a CSO. Now, one of the partners to Mr. Smith is Ms. Shaver, Daz in Procurement. She's the procurement goddess of all the RDA. She sets policy and helps out those contracts officers all the way down to our Echelon 4 level, which would be like NOC TSD in Orlando, Florida. She works with Mr. Smith. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. Works with Mr. Smith to bring together the component of a purchase with small business. So there's a relationship there. Now we tried to get Ms. Shaver here. She was at Gold Coast last week too. She's like, I've got stuff to do, Steve. So Cindy couldn't join us today, but she wanted to. Like, the leadership of the Department of Navy wants to help you, and I can guarantee that there's folks like me, and you're going to see the panel here, that want to help you. There are people like at the PEO level. They are so busy. You've seen the horse blanket before, and if you haven't, I'll send you to the DAU website, and you can see our system event view chart where you see the V's of what we have to do. I've been doing this 20 years as a part of that. So usually post-milestone, I'm in post-milestone A, then into B, into C. It is a bear. There are so many policies and things we have to work on. So sometimes going right to the PEO or the program officer isn't the best approach. So the best approach is the small business office. It's, I think, Bob, my buddy Bob Smith is going to be up here soon. It's going to one of them as well. Do not hesitate to grab one, and we've got the right people here. We've got Patrick from Naval X here. We've got orders here from around the RDA to support Port Hueneme in this event, this Coastal Trident ANTX event. Pull us aside, ask us, challenge us. If you don't give you the time of day, come to me. I'll give you the time of day eventually. But I don't take cards. I will give you my email address. You email me, because I don't want to have that guilty feeling of taking a card and having to connect with you. I don't want to do that. Give you my stuff. You email me. I will get back with you. All right. So we're gonna go into the panel here in just a minute. Again, this is a great event. I am so glad we have some juggernauts here. Mr. Bob Smith is here. Mr. Jimmy Smith is here. Like, we've got juggernauts here to help small businesses. We've got PTAC here. Angela, is that right? Angela's here, PTAC, helping find the deputies of the Department of Navy, right? Get companies prepared to do business with the Department of Navy. And then we've got our Don members here to help everyone. So awesome. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Over at the Exwick table, my friend James. James, why don't you come up here just so people can see your face and then feel like they have to come see you. I saw this. I think Tony Robbins talks about this kind of stuff. So this is James. James has got a product that he used to purchase with Nice Funds. So our Nice Funds used to be called 219. It's now a U.S. code Title 10 45.7 Bravo. I don't know. You can Google it. But what he did as an engineer, he was doing validation and verification, right? He purchased three products that take moisture from the air and make clean water. Are they making it at Exwick? No. They did the whole process. SAM.gov. They did an RFP last year, RFI. They did some market research, and then they made their purchases this year. So go over there and talk. It's interesting that we're making water from moisture in the air, but talk with James about the process that he used to purchase these things. This is what you're all looking for, and this is what this event brings. So James, they see your face. You're right over there. Point to where you are. You're right over in that area. Big Exwick. Big. What is that? Is that a aircraft carrier? All right. So go talk with James about what he did to make a purchase, right? With these Nice Funds, our internal funds that are a 2.5% holdback from the RDT&E dollars that come into the command. And I don't know if you need to know about all that, but anyway, thank you, James, for coming up on stage. All right, so that's at 10:00. I'm going to ask my panel to gather up here at the stage summit. We're going to get prepared, and then we'll roll right into the panel in 5 minutes. So I have 9:50, so 9:55. Now in the panel, you guys can talk. Just don't talk in this area. Talk, if you want to have collisions or discussions, collision kind of points, do it off to the side in the back. But we're going to have some juggernauts up here talking to you about how to get product to contract in the Department of Navy. So you might want to listen. Thank you. But you don't have to. Good America.
I'll sit at the very end of it. I can perch. We can have Mr. Smith up here to answer all the small business questions if he's willing. I'm willing to.
Diane Vanderkamp from Exwick, right?
Contracting officer.
Want to come in here a little bit? You're tall too.
Yeah.
Do you want a blue chair? You sure?
Can you see it in my dress?
I can't.
Now this is a family panel. It's going to be broadcast. So I don't know. This is not an OnlyFans channel.
It's tech transfer OnlyFans right here.
We would make so much money.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Would we make so much money?
No.
I don't know.
No.
Maybe with Rick Tarr here.
I can't speak to everyone.
Remember the rooftop bar?
Oh my gosh, I forgot you guys. We have you guys. Oh, and this is hot, so they hear us.
back to having
Okay. We're gonna kick off this panel. So I haven't checked the crypto coin in a moment, but this morning I understood. I was watching Bloomberg because I'm a big fan of Tom Keene, John, and Lisa Abramowitz in the morning. Love watching those folks. One of the things I saw in there was Bitcoin was down to below $20,000. It was below $20,000 last night. Now it's like $20,165. The Dow dropped 1,200 some odd points yesterday. We've got the railway workers. The union is now reviewing. They're in their cool off period to review their negotiations with the train companies and the union about, do we want to go back to work? Are these good terms to go back to work? So when you look at I won't call it the plight, but when you look at the nation and what we've got going on, it's pretty, it's pretty dismal, right? In November, they want to go up 75 points. I talked about this yesterday. Basis points from Chairman Powell, or they call him Chair Powell. I guess we leave the man part out. But like Mr. Smith said, the Navy is open for business. We have funding. We are looking for technologies. We're looking for innovation. We're looking for better ideas. We're looking for the future. What does the future hold, right? So today we've got this panel. This panel is navigating from product to contract with the Department of the Navy. Now within the app that's built by our young STEM members over there with that you met at the front table. Within the app, there is, I'm going to click on it. There is, no, now it doesn't. Sometimes no question room. Yesterday was a question room. All right, so maybe dag nabbit, I just checked that a moment ago. There was a place to post questions within the app. So Marcus, if you can hear me, Marcus, come on over to the stage and tell me why there isn't a question room in the app, but maybe he can fix it while we're up here talking. But there's that available. We're going to take a few questions from the audience at the end. So let's introduce our panel when we're in no particular order. Behind me is well, I'll let you introduce yourselves. That's probably the better way to go since we're in no particular order. So Danny, if you take the mic from Rick, I'll go quiet.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danny Kincaid. I'm the Small Business Deputy here at NAVFAC Exwick. I've been with contracts for 11 years, and I just slid over to small business last year.
Good morning. I'm Rick Tarr. I'm the director of the Southern Maryland Tech Bridge, located in Southern Maryland, and part of the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Stewart. I'm from NSWC Corona Division, just down the road. I work in technology transfer. I support our SBIR program, and I'm also the Federal Laboratory Consortium Far West Regional Coordinator. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Diane Vanderkamp, and I work at NAVFAC Exwick. I'm a contracting officer for a little over 5 years, and I love awarding contracts to small businesses.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if this works. Hi, my name is Larry Whitlock. I'm with PEO IWS out of Washington Navy Yard, and I'm the Deputy Chief Acquisition Officer.
Hi, I'm Dan Mahan. I'm the Deputy for Small Business for NSWC PhD, just on the other side of the wire here. I've been here a couple of years. I was a contracting officer at FLC San Diego prior to that. So you hit me up after the conference here, after the agenda here, and start your sentence off with Steelers or University of Arkansas, and we'll start it off well.
Hey, great to meet everybody. My name is Sasha Seymour. I'm the one industry member of this panel. I'm one of the co-founders of Learn to Win. We're a Silicon Valley tech company based just south of San Francisco, and I'm excited to be here today.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for flying in. And I looked at the app. The question portion is working. So let's see if this works. Maybe drop some questions in there. if you've downloaded the app, I don't know why wouldn't you download the app? Everybody does it. So take a look at that and see if you can do it. Okay, so as we get started here, who on the panel has worked with each other before, or knows each other, worked with each other, done any kind of coordination before? Let's start out there with an icebreaker. So who's worked on a project, not just knowing each other, but worked on a project with each other? Any of y'all? Okay, yeah, let's grab Dan over here to.
Danny, you were my contracting officer in the energy savings performance contracts. Yeah.
So what was that? Was that a small business that you dealt with, or how did all that work?
No, it's a multiple award contract to large businesses. But I did the first small business set aside in that program under the GSA contract.
And I released it.
And was that successful?
Very.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's yeah, go ahead.
I've also worked with Jennifer. So we had an SBR, I think it was actually an Air Force SBR through FATHOMWERX, where a small business had created a very unique tool that we were using within the tech transfer community. And they were doing customer discovery amongst multiple of the T2 offices. And both of us collaborated on that effort. And I think we're continuing to work with them.
Yeah, and actually the Federal Laboratory Consortium then took the result of that SBIR and hired TradeSpace to utilize their data analytics to do market assessment on different technology segments across the nation, which actually powered our decisions for our tech focus areas that we hold each year. And they pulled all the companies and all the intellectual property that were in these different tech verticals so that we could do targeted outreach for our events.
So I think the takeaway for that, if you are a small business, that has an SBIR, don't feel constricted to just that initial command or even the service that you get it from. You can shop that technology and capability across each of the services.
Well, let's talk. We're going to go out of order of these questions that I have here, Rick. But you brought up SBIR, and we know Bob's in the house. Bob Smith is in the house, SBIR program manager. In 2000, and you're SBIR awardee, right? Phase 2 at the Air Force level, and then we did a subsequent SBIR within the Department of the Navy over at NavWar for your product. Like, I think it was Brian Shipley downloaded for me. There were in Phase 2 SBIRs in 2021. There were 530 plus SBIRs, Phase 2s on the books, and then this year, FY22, there were something like 438 on the books. That's a lot of money. Like Bob Smith has what, like $450 million? Yeah? Is that what you got? $500 million? That's $500 million, ladies and gentlemen. So of that, I want you to talk about really quick, Sasha, your experience with this SBIR and what we had to go through, and be honest, and just talk a little bit about that for a few minutes and hit the high points of like, was it really worth it to do the SBIR within the Navy?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to. And I think to talk a little bit about Learn to Win's journey with the SBIR program with the Navy, I'll actually start maybe at least at the beginning with the actual origins of Learn to Win holistically. So I was a basketball player at the University of North Carolina. My co-founder was our student body president. We basically had an idea to create an agile software training tool designed to help athletes learn their playbooks faster and more effectively. So think like a Rosetta Stone or a Duolingo type tool, but built in such a way so that any sort of subject matter expert could build and create the content very quickly and effectively, essentially taking a non-expert in pedagogical learning design and equipping them with the software to help them build really, really effective training really, really quickly. So that was our original idea. Both Andrew and I went to graduate school at Stanford, essentially the heart of Silicon Valley capital, raised about $4 million, and basically built and designed a tool that we then launched into the competitive athletic space. We grew it to over 150 different athletic programs. We work with everything from the LA Rams Super Bowl champions down the road to the Pittsburgh Penguins to, again, over 100 elite competitive athletic teams We don't work with the University of Arkansas, unfortunately. But at the same time, I'd also gotten a commission to be an intelligence officer in the U.S. Naval Reserve. I work under O&I, doing work there. And as I was going through that experience, I realized, man, there's so much opportunity for us take this agile learning software and bring it to the Department of Defense. There was this huge need in agile training because I didn't feel like the Navy was learning fast enough. And so Andrew and I basically took this technology that we had already built and developed for one particular industry, and we were looking for ways that we could essentially take that technology and bring it to the Department of Defense. Fortunately, we were both still in graduate school at Stanford at the time. So we ended up taking the Hacking for Defense class taught by Steve Blank at Stanford. It was an incredible opportunity for us to basically get our technology, prototype it in front of the Department of Defense. We worked with the Air Combat Command at Beale Air Force Base, talked to over 150 different Air Force pilots, and essentially shifted the technology to go fit what the U.S. Department of Defense was looking for. After that program, 2 months later, we signed an SBR Phase 2 direct with FATHOMWERX. About 6 months later, we took that technology that we developed for the Air Force, then worked with the team at NavalX to get an SBR Phase 2 direct to NavalX. Through that experience, we were then able to take the existing technology that we'd built and scaled and expanded it to over 30 different pilots and different programs across the Air Force, Navy, Space Force, and Marine Corps. And we took our technology and got cybersecurity accredited up to Impact Level 6, and we're one of the very few technologies that can actually deliver secret level training across the Navy. And so in many ways, this early funding from the SBIR program was an incredible benefit to our organization. It was incredible early stage funding, and it was incredible in many ways the amount of access that we could then gain to places that otherwise we would have never known existed without the help of the SBIR program and allowing us to get into that space. But in many ways, as we've now transitioned beyond that experience, it's actually been very, very challenging for us. And in many ways, I think that it caused us to spend too much time, effort, and energy focused on the military side of our business as opposed to our growing commercial side, because there were significant flaws within the SBIR system that we just didn't understand going into the actual program itself. And looking back on it, if early in the SBIR process, we hadn't pivoted a lot of our time, attention, effort, and resources towards our growing commercial business, which at this point we work with about 40 different commercial businesses ranging from everything from Chick-fil-A to Mercedes-Benz to some of the top pharmaceutical companies on the planet. If we had not done that, I don't think our business would have survived. And I know I'm going on here, but
I'll stop you. I was going to stop you, but you hit. Well, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah,
I'll
basically just sort of continue on that sort of piece of where I think the SBIR program is flawed, and I'll basically just describe the experience that I've had working with these really large Fortune 500 companies and how they procure technology versus what I've seen in the SBIR program. And with the SBIR program, what we got was this very large initial pilot program, so a $750K direct Phase 2, which is a huge amount of money for an early stage company and really provided us a ton of capital to grow our business. However, the challenge was, for us at least, there was no clear, if this technology is successful, here's who will purchase it at the other end, which is the kind of thing that I think us coming in, we thought, well, if the US government is going to spend $750K on piloting a software, surely there must be follow-on capital there where if we can prove the value of it, then there will be follow-on capital to follow it. And to contrast that, I'll take our work with Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. In October of last year, we ran a 10K pilot with Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. A month later, we had proved the value from the 1 month that we had worked with them. They signed a 60K follow-on. 2 months later, they said, hey, this technology has really worked. We'll sign a 200K and roll it out to the full enterprise. And 3 months later, they said, this is really working. We'll roll it out to another business group for another 300K. And there was a single executive sponsor who was evaluating, here's the technology itself, evaluating whether or not it worked, and was able to provide that follow-on capital when we could prove that we were doing it correct. And it both started with a smaller initial pilot amount to basically say, hey, prove that this works. But then when we did prove it worked, there was very quick follow-on capital to double down on this successful investment. In a way that with the SBIR program, what I've seen is a very large initial amount, which has been great. But at the same time, like, I don't know if that's a great investment from either the government space or our space, but then very difficult to find that follow-on capital.
So a good moderator knows when to pull the plug, right? No,
What?
a good moderator knows when to pull the plug.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Right.
go for it.
All
Sorry.
right, so Sasha, what I heard you say, like you're, and I'm gonna use the provocative word a little bit, privileged, right? You went to Stanford, you guys went to that program, and then you went to the Hacking for Defense program, which is ONR does fund part of the Hacking for Defense program. Is that right, Rick? Like if I'm saying something wrong, just correct me on stage here. So you were fortunate to go to that, come out of it, and then work with Naval X, and then go all through this kind of like where does this plug in? Now a lot like NAVC, when you do SIBRs, they have the PIs, the technical point of contacts that help you. Like my job as a technical point of contact on a SIBR is to help the industry partner or the industry awardee get to a program of record, find a place for it, because we just don't want to be. We must have awarded it for a purpose that we had a void somewhere, right? NAVC, I wish they were here. NAVC is here, but NAVC proper, when I emailed them about some stuff, they're like, oh, no, we transition most of our projects. So maybe ask Bob Smith that when he gets up there, like how do they report? How does all that work? You know, and I think that's in the NDA 2022 section 289 asks for how many phase 2 have moved to phase 3 or something like that. Some kind of narrative like that. But you were fortunate, man, because you went to VCs, venture capitalists, and said, we got a commercial thing going here too. And what did they say when you said, we're just, if we were only defense, now maybe the Silicon Defense Valley group would be different. But if you just said I was defense, what would your VC say to you?
Yeah, so this is actually a conversation we've had. So in terms of background for Learn to Win, we've raised a little over $14 million in Silicon Valley venture capital. And almost every time we go and pitch a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, the big pushback that they give is, you guys are really heavily involved with the Department of Defense. They work too slowly. We don't necessarily want to invest there. Prove to us why this is a valuable market to invest in. And for Andrew and I, there's an incredible piece of this is a mission-focused thing for us. But where we struggle, and I'll just give maybe 30 seconds of background on how Silicon Valley, how Silicon Valley venture capital works and what we've seen on the government side is that Silicon Valley venture capital, roughly $300 billion invested every year. It's roughly 40 to 45% of overall R&D spending for the United States. And every single world-beating technology company that the United States is going to need in our upcoming Great Power competition has taken enormous amounts of venture capital. Like, you need it to be able to build and scale a successful technology company. And the way that they work is the Silicon Valley professional venture capitalist will hear 1,000 pitches from companies. They will select 10 to invest in, and then out of those promising 10, 2 of them they will double down on with a Series A investment. And in order to determine who are the 2 companies that they need to double down on with a Series A investment, they need to see significant growth and traction over the course of 18 to 24 months. So you need to go from 1 million ARR to 5 million ARR. And in order to do that, you need to be able to start with a smaller contract, prove value, and grow within that 18 to 24 month time span. Unfortunately, that doesn't work with what we've seen from the government side of these longer 3 to 5 year budgeting cycles. Yeah. And so for us, the only way that we've been able to continue growing with our venture capital is through the work that we've been doing on the commercial side. And it's been a hindrance for us, even though we've had these amazing SIBR programs, to be able to pitch venture capitalists that there is a long-term opportunity here.
And that's what we want to get. So that's a challenge for us. So Larry, from PEO IWS, Integrated Warfare Systems, is that right?
Yes.
Ran by Admiral Okano. Is that right? Did I say her name right?
Admiral Okano, yes.
Yeah. So she also was invited here, but she was on travel last week and just had to come back for meetings. But like, you're the chief acquisitions officer at the PEO, right? Like
deputy.
Deputy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're the chief today because the chief's not here. So, like, what do you know about your use of SIBR products, like your portfolio's use of SIBRs at IWS?
So I can say that
I'm a little closer to. There you go.
Yep. Okay. So at my level, like the oversight level, we have taken probably a few months ago the initiative to go and track down a lot of our OTAs, our SIBRs, and things like that, so that we can get a better hold on it. And so a lot of that data is more new to me because it's so segmented out in the program offices. So I can at least say that at with SIBRs, there are different warfare centers that are that we're working with, and essentially, I don't think we have like a singular repository for.
So if the audience Googles, if you go on Gunny Google right now, the Marines taught me that yesterday. You go to Gunny Google, and you Google RDA org chart, Research, Development, and Acquisitions org chart. Department of Navy, maybe throw Don in that string somewhere, that search string. You're going to see that Larry is representing the PEO. The PEO, those are the people that get the money, right?
Yes.
PEO and Mark or Syscom in that org chart for the Department of the Navy. Not the operational forces. You can go down to 1MEF right now, and you go out to Hawaii, you can go see the combatant commander out there. You go down to 1MEF to see the CG. Say, I really want this. They get operational dollars. They get very little money. They might say, yeah, this is great. I want to buy it. Task Force 59. Some people are working with Admiral Cooper out at Fifth Fleet. That's Fifth Fleet, right? Same thing there. He gets a small operational budget to do some things. The real money is at the PEO level, Mark or Syscom level. That's where all the enduring funds come from. So that's where you're at, right? And then you work with warfare centers like Port Hueneme, your program offices, to send funds here to execute their bidding, basically, because we're a Navy working capital funded place. So, but in that, like SIBR specifically, how often do you hear the word SIBR come up in your office?
So I think that, I'm not, so for me, I don't see it come up very often. I know that within the program offices, there's more of an emphasis on it. So again, at my oversight level, this is something that we're just now trying to dig into more.
And I'm not putting Larry on the spot, but most, and Rick, I'm going to let you go on mic for this one. You got a mic there? All right. So when the SIBR programs come up, what they're looking for, the SIBR leads are all at the NAV, the systems commands, right? And as you look this up, is that, like, Rick, I know we've had arguments about this.
Yeah, I mean, at the topic generator, they're helping the program
and then they go into the BAA.
Yeah, and I don't know if Bob's going to talk about the SIBR,
let's
the Navy
cue it
SIBR
up.
program.
And then we're going to move on to
afternoon.
Kratos.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about tech transfer.
So, but I want to talk about this right now, because my challenge with this whole thing is the PEOs. If the PEOs don't know what the gaps are from the operational forces, then how do they tell the Syscoms who have the SIBR PMs? Rick hates when I do this because he's very proper. How do they tell the SIBR PMs at the Syscoms like what to put in the BAA so we know what to be asking for so we can do proper transitions into phase 3?
And I think to add to that question is acquisition planning, right? And so the different programs running on different cycles, and then how do they fit into the PEO acquisition planning, and how can a business build a strategic roadmap that aligns the acquisition cycle, the funding cycle, and then the need and demand cycle, and when the fleet actually intends to field it, right? So there's several different time space continuums that you have to monitor and weave together for success. So it'd also probably be great to hear from Larry about, just from a PEO perspective, what is their acquisition planning cycle like? And then when can that collide with SBIR results or technology transfer results?
I think the other key component that Larry brought up is, I mean, the sweet spot for this is dual use technologies, right? That companies are already investigating certain technologies and capabilities to address a commercial marketplace. And we as the Navy can spin those into our warfighting scenarios where it makes sense. So I think Jennifer's point's right on. How are you managing that commercial development cycle? And oftentimes, technology that I'm dealing with within the aviation community is we're spirally developing. So it's technology that we're anticipating needing at some future point. So it can be even more complicated.
Okay, so what I've just heard is it's convoluted. That's what I've heard. Remember, I'm a NIWC land employee, 20 years government. It's convoluted. So how do we, what is the best way? What is the best way that is there venues like this to where we have open questions? Is it industry day? do we get to and I like the point that you just brought up. What is the acquisition strategy of the PEO? Is there an acquisition strategy? And not just the PEO, but the programs under the PEO. So when you click on, if you've gone to that site, I believe it's set up like this. If you click on like PEO IWS, well, I'm going to use PEO MLB because it's easier for me because I was there. PEO MLB, Manpower, Logistics, and Business Systems. Then it goes down to like My Navy HR, Log IT, LI2S, and the Marine Corps. And then you can see the different projects under that. Like, that's who we need the acquisition strategies
and
from.
I think Mr. Smith mentioned earlier, taking your Office of Small Business Programs person with you into the program office to ask these kind of questions, to understand where the technology maps in, is a great resource that the Office of Small Business Programs offers.
Yeah. So this is a teaming. What I heard you just say, Rick, and what you've referred to Mr. Smith's discussion is that this is a team effort. Like, you just can't walk in and say, I want to sell my technology. Here it is. You should buy it because I'm really important. It doesn't work like that. I just talked to General Umpty Frats. I talked to Admiral so-and-so, and they want this. I need to sell this right away. I've gotten lots of emails like that from industry. I'm like, it don't work like that. It like, you might get a smidgen, but that's a drop in the bucket comparatively if you do exactly what I really like the acquisition strategy. Get involved, bring your small office, and force us govies. Now we're busy, but that doesn't abrogate or take away from our need and say we don't have to do this. Make an acquisition strategy, because we do need to be pushing that out to our defense industry base before you all just go commercial, right? We need we need the defense industry base to continue. I just saw some great things down there from RepTech, like a patch that goes on like that. Like, where is that in the acquisition cycle that we need patches for armor or metal that go along? Where is that? And then for you to have access, bring your small business person in and start this kind of ecology in these talks. And that could be through like a tech bridge, like the Southern Maryland Tech Bridge, right? Or through your tech bridge at Inland Empire. Yeah.
And SBR is not the only way to partner with a Warfare Center or with the Navy or Marine Corps. We have other vehicles to do that.
Why don't you talk about some of those other vehicles?
I'll turn that over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Rick. So what Rick is referring to is collaboration and cooperation. And we can achieve that through what's called cooperative research and development agreements. And so Congress actually had a brilliant idea, believe it or not. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, they came up with
that's funny. I like that.
I mean, it's shocking. And it was bipartisan. Everyone agrees this is a great idea. So there's a whole series of statutes, what's under technology transfer. And technology transfer allows you to enter into these unique relationships and partnerships with the labs to co-develop, collaborate, and get to a solution. Now, a lot of times when I give talks about cooperative research and development agreements, and companies ask me, how do I get funded to do that? Is a CRADA funded? Is there a way for me, does that guarantee, if I get a CRADA, does that guarantee a contract? I have to give you the answer of no, which is the reason why we cannot fund a CRADA, a way for you to collaborate and jointly create and invent with our scientists and engineers, is because we can pick our partners. We don't have to compete it. So if you have a capability, if you have knowledge, know-how, facilities, any and all resources that are beneficial to a collaborative R&D project, and it aligns with the mission of one of our Navy laboratories, like mine, NSWC Corona. We do data analytics all day, all night. If you have something in that space, but you want to present it to us and we find interest in it, but we need you to pivot that technology. You know, what you've done isn't exactly what we want to buy at the end of the day. We can enter into a CRADA to co-develop and pivot that technology to a solution. Now, down the line, you might see a solicitation that is offered to buy that solution. Because you had the CRADA, are you guaranteed that you'll get that contract? No, because we love fair and open competition, right? As taxpayers, we want due diligence in the government spending. But what it does do is it surely gives you a better proposal because you were behind the curtain. You were partnering with that laboratory to develop pivot the technology.
Are you saying that if a small business does a CRADA, does the hard work, and how long does it take for a CRADA to get awarded, T2s?
It depends on the lab. I'll give you the lawyer answer. It depends.
It depends because the lawyers have to look at it, right?
It goes
Each side,
back
the
and
commercial
forth.
side, and that's usually the hang up, right?
My shortest has been a month.
Okay.
My longest has been 6 months.
6 months. But it's that forward work, that hard work put up forward that gives the small business or the large business access to the lab to collaborate with the government, with the Department of the Navy, which then doesn't give them a leg up because it wasn't like it was so exclusive that no one else, we were the only ones who could do a CRADA. Anyone can do a CRADA. There just has to be technology there that we're interested in. And then you work with your T2 officers to get that going. And then it's really not a leg up. You just put the hard work in the front end with the govies, and then you're into the system and looking around.
I mean, the richest customer discovery you can do is actually partnering side by side with your customer.
And that,
right?
And again, these are things that are in our toolbox today. They aren't like in the toolbox of a long time ago or the brand new. They've been around a while, right? Like these are things, when I hear that the acquisitions process is broken, I just cringe. I'm like, dude, it's maybe not, it's broken a little, but it's not shattered into pieces to where you're super gluing it back together, right? It's just a little, but you have to know, you have to do your homework. And events like this allow us to tell you about the great tools that are available to all of the.
And I'd also add too that these Antex-like events are great opportunities, also facilitated by CRADAs, that allow industry to come in, bring their technologies, test it in a mission relevant environment, get warfighter feedback potentially, and continue to develop the technology. So that we have these type of Antex events like Alan's doing with FATHOMWERX across the country. They happen down at Nywick Land in Charleston, at Patuxent River with NOC AD. So there are a lot of opportunities for companies to come in and demonstrate technologies in a mission relevant environment and get feedback.
Larry, go ahead, jump in.
I was going to say, I think it depends on your approach too, right? So if you're trying to break into the government and you try to come to a program office, we're not necessarily going to be able to have a CRADA with you, but one of our field activities would. And so if you reach out and you establish a CRADA with a field activity first, that may lead to
a federal lab.
Oh, federal lab.
Federal lab.
Federal lab. That may lead to different potential customers in the future if you didn't already have one in mind.
That's right. And then, well, I want to cover two things. So, Rick, what I learned like 5 months ago, if we have an established CRADA with a company and put the right clause in there, or the right language, and this both to Jennifer and Rick, can industry bid me on a proposal and then pay me?
Not under CRADA. We have other agreements that allow you to do that.
What's the agreement? Because that's what I've been pitching, and we can do that at Nywick Land. I just cleared that with the lawyers. So how is that different that I can't be pitched as a sub to a company? I'm throwing that out around here. So correct me.
We have 3 other statutes that allow us to partner with industry and serve as a sub. Their work with private party agreements. So we have national assets that Congress has funded, and Congress wants to ensure that the industrial base has access to those national resources. So we can do
national resource.
Right. Work with private party agreements like at my lab to do ranges. So if you want access to a range, unique salt fog environments, anechoic chambers, exactly. Those are available. We also do like weapon separation testing, a lot of different capabilities that an industry partner necessarily wouldn't stand up for one-time tests that that are available as national labs.
And what Rick is referring to, our work with private party, are not collaborative and cooperative like a CRADA. It's where industry needs access to a taxpayer-funded capability in a lab, and then you pay us to have access to that, and you pay whatever the lab's rate is, because we can't make a profit on those dollars. So you can have access to a lot of different unique capabilities where you're not collaborating, you're not cooperating, you just want to get a test result. Then you would use that type of agreement.
Right. And I think that brings up a really great point about data rights. Under those agreements, it really is your data that you're buying. You're buying a service. CRADAs are not structured that way. So the CRADA contemplates more of a collaborative sandbox. Yeah, and maybe the other one, sort of as we talk about non-federal acquisition regulation agreements that you want to touch on, would be other transactions. So this is another great tool in the toolbox.
Yes, ATI. We're talking about OTAs, and we know you own 5 consortiums in the Navy and 14 under the 6 consortiums in the Navy, and yes, you're a nonprofit. Yes, so Diane, I would like to ask what we talked about. He talked about doing. Larry, go ahead.
I wanted to jump in really quick too. So if the federal lab approach seems to be something that you're interested in, there are companies out there that help match make you and introduce you to those federal labs. I just met one last week at Gold Coast. So if anybody's interested in that contact information, I can try to get that to you after the panel.
Well, right. Yeah. Well, but we're all here for the Department of Navy too, Larry. So if you need matchmaking, you've got all the matchmakers right here. We can do the matchmaking. But what was one of the companies that you met down at Gold Coast?
I have to pull their card for it, but that's what I was saying. They specifically work in the connecting you to research labs.
So Diane, I know Rick hit on it with the CRADAs and an ANTX, and I know at Charleston at Nowick Lant, I brag about this, but we've done 0 contracts out of it, right, for the small bit for businesses. But when we do like a limited purpose CRADA, like our cyber ANTX that's just went on, and then next month we have this 3-path Monty, which is an optical comms ANTX. Both of those will have associated a CSO. What has been in this area? Have you guys done any CSOs with the T2 offices out here to get that kind of industry base going and available for a product for purchase of whatever they showed at the ANTX?
What is a CSO?
The commercial solutions opening.
Oh, okay. No.
Is it offering or opening? I always get them mixed up, so we can Google that later. But not so much out here. Not so much out here. So yeah, that's another. Rick, do you want to talk about CSOs at all? I mean, I don't know. Do you do them at NOC AD?
We don't. Have you all done CSOs?
No, I was going to say we are going through like an acquisition culture change. And so about a month ago, we went through a training, and that's when I first learned about CSOs. And that's something that we took to our entire workforce. And
so not all ANTXs are equal, and not all ANTXs have a purpose. Like when we do the ones at Charleston, we wanted a CSO at Nowick Atlantic. And I think there's Nowick PAC may do them. But again, a CSO allows you to have, if you do an LP CRADA with the lab, and then you have the CSO, and you get and your product is demonstrated and hits all the marks after evaluation, then you move into the CSO phase, which allows you to have a phase 1 OTA with the government lab. In other words, whatever you displayed here, like if you're displaying water bottles at the ANTX, the CSO allows the government in a contracted, decentralized contracting availability to purchase whatever you did at the ANTX event. If you want to sell us your cell phone, no, we can't. We don't do the cell phone. Just the product that was demonstrated at the ANTX event. So again, that takes a big effort. It's a huge effort on the government's portion to get that going. Not saying that it is important for us to do that, but again, some labs and some ANTXs don't do that. And it's just part of what barrier of entry do you want to have? Now, there's a gentleman out here. He disclosed his wife own a company. They want to get on. They want to test their product. The ANTX here allows you to do that. That's what the Coastal Trident. You sign up, you work with Brendan, and he gets you on a naval vessel out there. Or he brings in 14 sailors, a dive team. Last year they had dive teams testing products underwater with the U.S. Navy divers. They're right over here in the dive locker. So that's, again, ANTXs are meant for technical exercises, but they're not all created equal. Just depends on what the Warfare Center wants to do and what the goals of your company are and the goals of the ANTX. So you need to work with the different Warfare Centers on that, and also challenge them. Rick, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention how many in the audience have heard of other transaction authorities? How many of y'all are members of an OT consortium? So a Navy OT consortium. I see one.
Which one are you a member of? Autonavo.
No. CINMOC. Okay. So the Navy has now several consortiums, and it's a great way to find problem statements. So we've got Mike Lavery here from Philly. They have a consortium that has problem statements. ATI's here. They have a bunch of consortiums that are managed by ATI. We have one at the Naval Air Warfare Center and NAVAIR called the NAS, Naval Aviation Systems Consortium, that we're constantly putting white paper requests through. So that's another great way of understanding an opportunity to do business with the Navy. All of the contracts that come out of there are non-FAR-based contracts. So OTs are a different way of prototyping with the Navy that don't have some of the encumbrances, honestly, on both sides of the desk for working with industry, small business, and non-traditional firms. How many of you are actually small businesses? A few non-traditional. So you've never had a CAS compliant contract? Oh, nice. Okay. So that's a great opportunity as well. I know ATI's here, but there are other consortiums.
So now I want to go to D&D. So Dan and Danny. So now we've talked about this stuff. You are the deputies to Mr. Smith, right? Deputy at Port Hueneme, deputy at Exwick. Like, what is your advice to the small companies here in Ventura County, in collaboration with, and this might, look, I might be stumping a chump here, but Alan is the Tech Bridge Director to this FATHOMWERX. Is there a PO with FATHOMWERX? Yeah, there's a PO with FATHOMWERX. That's another agreement through the T2 office. So how are you working? Like, what do you think might be the output of what you want to do more to reach out to small business to keep innovation going?
Well, the three things that I would suggest.
Little closer.
The three things that I would suggest are follow our long-range acquisition forecast, the LRAF, very closely. That's posted on our public website. You can also get it by contacting me. But that tells you what's coming online over the next 5 years. And that's one of the most important tools I use. Second of all, I have what's called a small business roundtable that I host monthly in Camarillo at the Small Business Development Center. Once I have your POC information, I send out invitations monthly to that event. And then thirdly is to speak to me directly. Hit me up after I leave the stage here, or give me a call at 805-512-3195. And I think
if you were a family member who has ever tripped and fallen.
I think I'm very good at returning calls. So that's
all right. So Danny, how would you answer something like that? Do you need want to share?
So I would say, I know that a lot of people out here have met and spoken to Mark Thompson. I don't know if he is in visual range here, but he's our ORDA at Exwick. And if you don't have direct access to him through this event or already knowing him, you can come to me and I can get you to him. But he is our research and development guy. So that's what I would say, is we want to talk to him and I can be kind of your conduit to him. But other than that, yeah, what Dan was saying, those are the kinds of things that we would suggest you do. Work with your PTAC. Angela over there is our area person. So if you aren't currently doing business with the government yet, she can really help.
What about industry days? Like H Warfare Center is assigned, like NAWIC Lant or NAV War, NAWIC Lant and PAC are assigned to PEO Digital, MLB, C4I, and then Marcor Syscom. And you guys, I know, are assigned to your NAVFAC. And then then you guys, Dan, are assigned to EO, IWS, and who else?
Well, we work for NAVC, so we're
So
Naval
all of
Sea
NAVC,
Warfare
okay.
Center.
So then from there, like, do you guys have, would you consider industry days out here? Like work with the Economic Development Collaborative? We just saw Bruce up here yesterday. How might...
What I do is generally
and then we'll go to questions.
Generally, it's a once a year command-wide industry day. We did the most recent one was in June at the Ventura County Office of Education in Camarillo, where we had 65 contractors who had displays similar to what we have here the last 2 days. So I'm starting my plans for next year for that. We also do requirement-specific industry days. So, if, for instance, about 6 weeks ago, we did a industry day in White Sands, New Mexico for the engineering and technical support services. And those industry days get announced both in Seaport NXG and SAM. So it gets, I think that covers every contract. Every contractor should see that invitation, and then you follow the directions on how to participate.
Any follow-up to that, Danny? Or
I would just say we haven't done an industry day at Exwick in my, which is how many years ago? 12 years ago, which is not to say we are not interested in doing that. I'll probably get with Dan and kind of try and tag along on his and then see what we can do at Exwick to bring something here.
And you guys are, like, of all the naval warfare centers, you guys are the tiniest, I think. Is that true?
Probably.
Like smallest. Yeah. So because I know James, I brought James up here. He bought those systems under NICE to do some experimentation, validation, verification of making water from air. So, but is this something like Exwick would? I mean, you have access through here with Mark being here. Do you guys want to come here more and do industry?
Yeah, I've spoken to Mark and Brian about doing an industry day hosted here. So it's definitely something I'm interested in.
Okay. No guarantees now, Diane. I'm not trying to. I know you're a contract. Contracts officers hate putting anything. Like, I'm not saying that. Say again?
Can I plug a resource?
Yes. And then we're gonna go to questions in the audience. So I don't have a mic runner. So I'm gonna get down there. I'll run the mic down there, but I wanna take maybe how about 4 questions? Because we're gonna do this panel after. I know I've had you up here for a while. I know Rick. He's gonna yell at me. He rides with me, so he's gonna yell at me back to the hotel. I don't know why you talked so long and had us up there. Go ahead.
I want to plug a resource for all of you that's paid for by your tax dollars. It's federallabs.org. When you go to federallabs.org, you find the website for Federal Laboratory Consortium. This consortium was created by Congress to bring together every federal agency, so not just the Navy, every federal agency's federal and national laboratory into one clearinghouse. So think of FLC Business as your Craigslist to the federal government, or maybe Facebook Marketplace, because that's a little less creepy. So you can go there and shop for technologies. Your tax dollars invest in research, and the outcomes of that research is available to you for use, for licensing. You do not have to come up with all the technological solutions on your own. You can actually license a patent, an invention from a federal laboratory. Then you can do a CRADA, you can pursue an SBIR to get development dollars, and then you can transition that technology into mission use. You can shop here. We're launching brand new FLC Business Federal Laboratory Consortium for every single agency's patent portfolio and research programs in April. It's a little clunky right now. We're in process of redeveloping it to make it easier for you to shop technology. What I tell a lot of companies when I do the SBA road tours is you can also look at the intellectual property outcome of these labs gives you insight back to customer discovery, into what problems they are working on, what problems they are solving, and then how does your solution align with the intellectual property that's already being developed in that lab. That is a key factor in building a great relationship and collaboration, and to pivot your solution to an actual need. You know, one of the things, and I don't know if Bob Smith, and we keep putting Bob on the spot today, but one of the things that I've heard Bob refer to in his talks that I really find honest and I appreciate is, if you're trying to push us a technology, is it actually giving us another problem to solve because it's not in an immediate need or tailored to a problem that we actually have? Like, say I want to outfit all the ships with these electric engines and you can get rid of everything that you have. That's actually creating us a problem, right? And a costly one at that. When there's a lot of little solutions that we need now that you could sell us that could make you big money. So think about the needs, think about customer discovery. Go to these websites and get familiar with what we're doing and how what you're doing can align and benefit and collaborate with that.
Jennifer, we're looking for a T2. Our T2 resigned or left the government service. He resigned. So you should move to Niwak Land, because that was one of the other topics for a panel, was how to do T2 spin out of patents from the labs and how small business could license it and then sell it back to us, because we don't have a production line. We don't do production. So that's great. That's really, like, if you're doing your homework and you really want to know, like, you should talk. And we're not going to take any questions because I forgot we have breakout sessions after this. But man, Jennifer, that's hot. Like take a look at what's out there, patent and then available for licensing. Now, look, the patent people, the people who invented it get a little scratch. The Warfare Center, I think, gets a little scratch, but very little. It's a little. Oh, absolutely. But the important part there was, you know, what we're interested in, because we are working on those things. So Jennifer, we're going to close with that. And I'm going to thank each and every one of you. Larry, thanks for coming out this last minute. I know we just got here yesterday. Thank you very much. Dan, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I hope to see you here more at your Tech Bridge area. Sasha, thank you for coming down from up north. I know you have a wedding to go to here shortly. And Diane, thanks for walking across the yard, because I think you're pretty close, right? And then Jennifer, thank you for being here. Rick, yeah, okay. And then Danny, I really appreciate that you've come over from Exwick to represent here at your Coastal Trident, ANTX. All right, thank you, everyone. Yeah. Oh yeah. Pleasure to have you here. The people you want to talk with today, you've seen them, please talk with them.